Let's get that a little bit brighter. Let's zoom out a little bit. Where's my zoom not working? Okay, that's a little brighter. How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. If you're new to the channel, my name is Big Ball Vlogs. I do reviews, news, everyday vlogging, and every once in a while I do a tutorial. If this video is educational or somewhat entertaining, please consider smashing that like button and maybe subscribing to the channel for new videos when I post them. So it's 26 degrees outside with a little bit of a breeze. I'm not going outside to fly, even though I want to maiden this thing. I'm still waiting for FedEx to deliver a battery and some accessories that I ordered from DJI. Over the last couple of days, I've been going through the settings, just trying to familiarize myself with the settings, so when I'm out there flying and I got to flip around, I know where to find stuff and not burning battery because I only had one. So I thought I would shoot a video on that because I thought some of you may be interested in seeing the settings and features of the DJI FPV drone. You may not have owned a DJI drone and you want to know how you program or change the settings on this thing because you're only used to doing beta flight stuff. And your RC controller programming, or maybe you have a DJI drone and you're curious, like, what's the difference between the drone I have and the FPV drone? So this is probably going to be a long video because there are a lot of settings, a lot of menus. I want to go through all of them. But after going through them, maybe you'll help you make a decision on whether or not you want to get this thing based on what you can see it can do. Now, let me just kind of disclaim this by saying that this is early firmware, and DJI is known for giving you more features down the line. There are some things that I'm surprised that are missing from the DJI FPV drone because it's still a camera drone. Like the ability right now, I don't see the ability to take still photos. Why not? There's a shutter button on there. Why can't I flip into still photos and use it like a camera drone? Don't know. But yeah, right now it's a little bit early. So what you see now may change in the future. So the only way I know how to do this right now is to look down through the lens of the goggle. So it may be a little bit annoying to see it kind of focus hunting or maybe not give you the full field of view. Some guys said that you could see the telemetry and you could see the on-screen display on your phone. I've tried it twice. I've tried it on my Android. I've tried it on the iPhone, and I can't get it to work. So I'm going to have to go low-tech. If you don't want to watch, thanks for watching. Thanks for supporting the channel. But stick around. You might be interested in this. Let's take a look. Alright, so hopefully this is giving you a decent view that's relatively in focus. I can't use focus peaking because the peaking kind of blurs out the small detail. I can't read the actual words in the goggles looking through the screen on the camera. So we're going to take a look at the main screen first. This is the main screen that you see when you're out flying your drone. On the left side at the bottom you have your modes, and that N means normal mode. You can select normal mode, sport mode, or manual mode. To the right of that you have some telemetry on distance and altitude. I don't know if I can see speed in there. Yeah, it does actually say speed, so distance, altitude, and speed. To the right side of the screen you're going to see your drone's battery life, or the very first battery icon. You got two red markers there, kind of like to the left and right of the RC signal, and they're telling you that you probably don't have a GPS satellite or some type of connection that you need to go out and fly. As you can see, there's a warning that says not safe to take off because you don't have GPS. And above that, I don't know why I don't see it right now, but above that, usually to the top of the screen, there is a warning that says I don't have an SD card. And I know I don't have an SD card in there right now, but I don't see that warning, so I don't know. We'll figure that out. So that's the main menu. So that's what you're going to see when you're normally out flying. DJI drones have a ton of sensors. They read the battery. They read, what's going on with all of your sensors, and they will pop up warnings regularly to tell you if something's going wrong, like you need to calibrate or your battery's about to go low. Like I said, DJI drones have the ability, well, maybe I didn't say it in this video, but DJI drones have the ability to monitor your battery level, and if you're going to run out of battery before you can return home, it's going to know that, and it's going to return you home. It's going to give you a warning. It's going to say, hey, your battery's low, return it to home in 30 seconds. You can cancel it, but you're risking not being able to make it back home. And go look at some of the long-range videos. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. So let's take a quick look at the actual settings and what you can actually do with this thing. So I'm going to click into the settings, and the first one is the status setting selection. So if I go into that, what you're going to do is you're going to get the statuses. Like I said, DJI drones have a ton of sensors that they're constantly monitoring. So you have your accelerometers, you have your barometers, you have your temperature sensors, you have your gyros, or you have your compasses. Anything that goes wrong with any of those, if there's an indication that there's something wrong with it, it needs to be calibrated, it's going to pop up in this menu. You're going to get that as a splash on your screen if it happens real time, but you always want to kind of go in and check your statuses to see if there's anything wrong before you want to take off. You don't want to take off and maybe have not caught that your IMUs are out of calibration or your compass is out of calibration and potentially lose your drone. A couple of days ago, I tried to fly this drone, and when I tried to fly it, I was just going through the settings, and it said, hey, no, I was trying to put it into manual mode. That's what I was trying to do. I was trying to put it into manual mode, and it said, hey, you haven't really practiced on the sim yet, so go practice on the sim before you can flip it into manual mode. And that was in this this status warning menu here. So anything that goes wrong with the drone, just check your statuses, and you should be able to figure it out. So next one down, which is I'm just going to skip over, is the gallery. So you can go in and you can look at your videos and your pictures if it took still pictures. But the drone actually films an MP4, and what I've read is that you can actually stick an SD card in here with like some anime on it and watch anime FPV style if you wanted to. There is a 3.5 jack on the goggle, so you are able to get sound out of it. I haven't tried it to see how good of a sound quality it is, but yeah, keep that in mind if you plan on taking this on a flight with you and you want to put some anime on an SD card. You might be able to use your FPV goggles for entertainment purposes too. Now the next one down is where we're going to actually get into the settings. We're going to go into that, and there are a couple of different menus. DJI is big on safety, so they're so big on safety that sometimes some of their safety features are actually not wanted and annoying to some people. Like the way that they can kind of like lock you out and not let your drone take off if you're in maybe a FRIA, not a FRIA, a no-tear, the temporary flight restriction, or somewhere where, man, sorry about that phone. If you're in a situation where you're not allowed to fly, no-fly zone. So safety features with DJI drones can get, like I said, they're meant to keep us safe in the hobby, but they can get a little bit frustrating because at times, you're like, oh, I just want to take this thing out in my backyard and fly it, but you didn't know that you're like that close to an airport or something, or if you're on vacation, you didn't know you were that close to an airport, and it's just going to lock you out, and you're not going to be able to fly without putting in all of your information to unlock the drone. So let's get into the safety features real quick. Like I said, if you haven't owned a DJI drone, there are a lot of cool little features that this thing has that will keep your drone safe and return it back to you, and keep you compliant so that you're not breaking the rules. So max altitude, I can't remember how high you can set that up to. FAA requires that you stay below 400 feet. But yeah, you can put that up to, I think this actually says, it's kind of small, I can't see, but that says like 1,600 feet. Because I think it's allowed you to set up to like, I don't know, like 10 meters or something like that. And normally, what it will tell you is if you get to 400 feet is, hey, you are flying above the FAA's regulated height. Doesn't stop you, but it's going to give you the warning. Now, if you don't want to do that, if you want to maintain your compliance, you just lower that down to 399 feet, and you should always be good. With the downside of that is if there's a tree or something in front of you that's 300 foot tall, you're not going to be able to get over it. You're going to have to go around it. The next one is flight distance. So flight distance is cool, like if you're training someone or you want to kind of like monitor what they're doing, you can geofence them. You can put flight distance at like 50 meters, and the drone will not be able to fly outside of that 50-meter geofence, and you can see what they're doing at all times, spot them. They aren't able to get it like too far away where you can't see the direction of what they're doing. So normally I set that to unlimited, so because sometimes you want to fly a little bit further than the FAA may want you to. You might want to go out a little bit, keep it in line of sight, but keep it out a little bit further than these things get super small really quickly. So line of sight may be for a Spark, may not be the same thing as like an Inspire, but yeah, you can adjust that to unlimited, or you can adjust it down to as low as you want to keep the drone right in front of your face. Next one down, return to home altitude. DJI drones, if they run out of battery or they get into a situation where they lose signal, they are able to return to home. And I don't know if this one has what they call precision landing, but it will pretty much land in the spot that you took it off from. Can't do that with DIY drone, but yeah, you want to set the return to home altitude to compliance, which is usually around 400 feet, which you should be able to get over almost everything, like cell phone towers or antennas at certain, power lines at certain situations. But yeah, you can raise it a little bit higher just to make sure that if you're in an environment where you're not aware of what's going on, it will be able to get over top of everything. This one has, we'll go down to the next one, which I think is a couple down. This one has obstacle slowdown. It doesn't have obstacle avoidance, but reading the manual, it said that obstacle slowdown still allows it to kind of like get around stuff. But the next one down is going to be your update of your home point. That means, let's say you took off in a cornfield somewhere and you're like, hey, we're going to jump in the truck and we're going to follow ourselves down the road about a mile. You don't want this drone to go back to where you took off from if the battery gets low or if you lose signal. So always make sure that if you're a moving target, that you're updating your home point so that the drone comes back to you before you hit the return to home button or before your battery gets too low. Next one down is the obstacle delay, or slowdown actually, the obstacle slowdown that I was talking about. Reading the manual, it says that this is just going to slow the drone down. It's going to give you warnings. You're going to see like colorations on the edge of your screen for where the obstacle is at, where it notices the obstacle, and it's going to slow the drone down so you don't hit it. It's not obstacle avoidance like previous DJI drones where it won't touch the thing that it sees as an obstacle. So if it were you or a building, it's going to start slowing down a good, I don't know, 40 or 50 feet before it even gets to that obstacle, depending on your speed, and it's going to stop like it's got a tether tied to its butt before it even touches that obstacle. It will absolutely stop and it will not hit it. This one will allow you to hit it. It's obstacle slowdown, so it's going to say, hey, you're coming up on an obstacle, we're going to slow you down a little bit so you can fly around it, but if you don't listen, you can actually crash this drone into something. The next one down from that is your compass calibration and your IMU calibration. Like I said, this has a lot of sensors. Usually with the newer DJI drones, it only requires you to calibrate the compass if it needs it. It'll tell you, hey, your compass is out of calibration, calibrate it, or your IMUs are out of calibration. Usually on the first time, like when I get a drone out of the box, I usually go through and just do a quick calibration just to make sure, especially with the IMUs, because what happens is, people are throwing these things around as they're, moving through from the warehouse to you, and you could bump your IMUs out of calibration, and you want to make sure all of your sensors are good so that you don't lose this drone if it gets out, and you can't get it back to you. The next one is Find My Drone. DIY drones are able to use a GPS, and if you have the telemetry on screen and actually capture the GPS coordinates, you might be able to find your drone. With the DJI drones, it will literally walk you to where this drone was last, I guess, reported. If you have a Wi-Fi connection, it'll take you right to it. If you don't have a Wi-Fi connection or the battery dies in the drone, it will, give you the last location, the last coordinates, but you should be able to find your drone using the Find My Drone feature, and that comes in handy if you like I have to put it down in the middle of a cornfield because something's gone wrong, or the battery goes dead on you. You never know what happens. You want to be able to go and track down a $1,300 drone. I know a lot of you guys have lost DIY quads with GoPros on them in the mountains somewhere, and we're like, hey, just write off as a loss, but I got amazing video footage. But yeah, I want to be able to find this drone, and this is the feature that's going to allow you to do it. I'm going to go down one more. You're going to go into advanced settings on this one. In advanced settings, we have the ability to, and I don't know why DJI has this as an option, you're going to be able to decide what you want your drone to do if it loses signal. It should always be returned to home. There are other settings in there, though. If I click on that, you have hover and you have land. You do not want this thing to hover or land if it loses its signal. It's going to land in the middle of a lake, probably, if that's where you're flying over, and it's going to hover over that lake until it dies and lands in the middle of the lake if that's what you're flying over. So always set that to return to home so that you get your drone back. I know when the first time I got a camera drone when I had GPS and return to home, I was absolutely terrified to even fly that thing, like, out of, like, not even, like, out of line of sight, but like out of my vision, because I was so used to flying RC and you had to have your eyes on the quad at all times. And when I started getting a little bit more bold, before all these FAA regulations and said, hey, let's see what this thing can actually do, it scared me to death to not be able to see this thing and know how far it was away from me. With DJI drones, I don't want to say all of them because there are those defects, but for the most part, you should be feeling really secure about that thing coming back to you and, like I said, landing where it took off from. The last one, what we have, oh no, actually there's AirSense. AirSense, I think there's a sensor in this thing called an ABSD receiver. So planes, I think it's called ABSD, but maybe not. There's a receiver in the drone that will let you know if there's an aircraft, a manned aircraft flying around, if it has a transmitter to broadcast that out. So on the camera drones, if you guys have had a like a Mavic Air 2 or a Mavic 2 Pro or something, it'll flash and say, hey, manned aircraft in the area, and on the map you'll see this little bleep, this little flashing bleep flying across the screen to let you know where it is so you can get out of the way. I always leave that on because I want to know, I want situational awareness. I want to know what's in the airspace that I'm flying in so that I don't get in any manned aircraft's way. Next one down is emergency stop. So if all this fails and you need to put this thing down with DJI drones, what you normally do is you push both sticks down in or both sticks down and out, and it will kill the propellers and it will just literally fall out of the sky. With your DIY drones, usually if there's a situation, it's either going to lock out and drop you out of the sky if you don't have your fail-safe set to like fall out of the sky versus land, or you can just hit the arm switch, kill it, and it will drop out of the sky. So let's back out of that. And now we're going to go down to the next one, which is control. Like I said, a lot of you guys may be into pig tuning and control settings through RC, but DJI is a little bit different. And this is why the controllers don't work with Air Unit or with other drones, because they're all software programmed. They are not like your RC where you can go in and change channels and settings and flip switches and put this on that switch. It's all software programmed. All these buttons are attached to something on this drone. So let's get in that real quick. First thing is going to be the control menu. We're going to go into that, and this is going to give you the ability to go in and change all those buttons and what they actually do. You can change the scroll buttons to do this. You can change the buttons to do that. You can pretty much customize it so that, if you want your C1 button to do camera reset, or your, I don't know, C2 to do turn the bottom light off and on, that's how you kind of can customize it. But there's no channels. There's no like channel flipping. There's no trimming. There's nothing that you would be able to do to kind of like set this up with an Air Unit or any other type of RC. Unlike the other DJI controller, which is literally an RC controller that has been just made and branded by DJI to fly their Air Units, sort of like Crossfire or Tango Radio. Next one over is stick modes. You can go in there and change this from mode 1 to mode 2 to mode 3. I don't even know what mode 3 is. I've only heard of mode 1 and mode 2. Don't even want to get into it and accidentally switch it to something different. So this is where you can change up all the settings on how your controls work with your mode stick, or with stick modes. Next one over is your gains and expo. So if you're a DIY guy, you go into Betaflight and change your gains and expo in the tuning section. This is where you do it in the FPV drone. And DJI has given you this feature on some drones and taken it away. I remember the original Mavic Pro, you can go in and put in your expo curves and everything, kind of make it fly the way you want, and they took it away on future drones. So I'm glad that they gave this ability to the FPV drone, because you're kind of like flying this thing in manual, and you want to be able to control it the way you want to be able to control it. I usually like my drones to be kind of soft around the center and super aggressive around the edges. So I kind of adjust my expo and rates to kind of to produce those results when I move the sticks around. So I'm really anxious to get this thing out, and like I said, I need 2 batteries, because I want to spend the first battery kind of like tuning it, and then the next battery I can kind of like get familiarize myself with how it flies, and then don't have to keep going back and recharging. Cool thing about these batteries is they do last for like 20 minutes. So 6S battery, it is super expensive, but again, it lasts for 20 minutes of decent flight. 20-30 minutes on some drones, and you don't have to kind of keep going back in and charging like your normal 6S 1000. I don't know, I get 9 minutes on my band guide. Next one over is RC calibration. So if your controller isn't acting correctly, it doesn't kind of feel correct, you can go in and calibrate your controller. It's nothing that it doesn't take a lot. All you do is hit start, and they'll tell you move the sticks around to all the corners, center them, and then it will self-calibrate. So let's get out of that. I don't want to do a calibration right now. I'm going to go out one more menu, and then we're going to go down to camera. So camera settings. There are some settings in here that you may be familiar with if you have flown the V1 goggles or an Air Unit, and there's some that are a little bit new, because they're kind of like the other DJI camera drones. So the first one is my phone is just going off like crazy. So camera parameters. You see this if you've got yourself an Air Unit and you set your settings up in the V1 goggles. You can set up your I can't even read what that says, but on the right side it says something. I can't remember what it says right now, but you can set up your shutter speed, you can set up your exposure to auto or manual. I think that's what it says. It says how do you want to control this camera, auto or manual. You can set up your exposure compensation, you can set up your saturation and your white balance, and that's a little bit out of focus, so I'm trying to make that a little bit better. But that's what you can do for setting up the camera feature for your drone. Let's go back one. Transmission quality. you have the ability to set high quality or low latency. I know that was the controversy when these first came out. The latency was too great for racing, so if you want to set this up for low latency, you can still do so even with the DJI drone. But I don't see the megabits adjustment that you would set on the air unit version. So we're gonna go out of that. We're gonna go to video quality. This is something that you can't do with the air unit. You can shoot up to 4K at 60 frames per second. You can do slow motion. You got 1080 all the way up, so a lot more resolution settings. We're gonna go back down. You can do your video format. I always record in MP4, but I think you can also record in MOV, like your iPhone style or your, what is that called, QuickTime style. We're gonna go out of that. We're gonna go down one. You can put grid lines on the screen, so if you're into photography, you can definitely set up grid lines for, like, your rule of thirds. Again, this doesn't have camera feature, so not sure why you would actually want the grid lines unless you were trying to set up. Normally you want to keep the sky in the upper third of the shot so you can have a decent exposure. But I mean, I could do that without the grid lines. Next one down is center point. It just puts a little crosshair, a bullseye right in the middle of the screen for you, so that you can kind of aim for things. Next one down from that is format your SD card. And then down from that is your advanced camera settings, so we're going to go into that. This gives you the ability to pick whether or not you want to record to the goggles or to the drone. There is an SD card on a slot on the drone too, so if you forget your SD card for your goggles, it'll still record to the drone, and you're probably going to be able to get that full 4K in the drone versus on your goggles. You're probably only limited to like 720 transmission on your goggles. Down from that, you're going to hit, I always put on record on takeoff because I don't know how many times I've forgotten to hit the record button and thought I had an amazing video when I got back and found out that I didn't record anything. The next one down from that is electronic image stabilization. I don't know why you would want to turn that off, but maybe you do. I always leave that on if it's available. It makes your GoPro footage stable, like, I mean, not GoPro footage, it makes your drone footage stable like a GoPro. Down from that, you have distortion correction, which is sort of takes out that fisheye effect. That this is a super wide angle lens on this drone, so it does have that like wide angled GoPro effect where the edges are a little bit round. You can take the distortion out of that and kind of make it more square or flat. Down from that is image roll correction. So this is an electronic shutter, so you get that image roll when you're moving around. You can see like this, the screen looks like it's bending. I believe that the roll correction will fix that for you. If you go down from that, what does that say? Wide something? I can't read what that says. Oh, your recording codec. So you can record in, looks like H.265. It looks like it says from here. Let's go into that H.265 or H.264. I can't see. Yeah, I think it says 265 and 264. Depending on what kind of compression you want to use, what your editing software can do. Those are your options. So we're gonna go out of that. We're going to go down one more. I had hoped to see more in here, but with DJI drones, some of them, I think with the exception of the pro level drones, you're able to kind of go in and set up your preset color profile, so you can put it on like super saturated, Sophia, black and white. On this one, you just you get normal and descent like, so you are able to film in descent like or log profile and do color correction after. So if you guys are into color correcting, that's what you want to do. We'll go out. Go down, anti-flicker for you guys in the EU or guys in the US who go to the EU, which was surprising to me that when I use my cameras in the EU, I could actually see all the lights flickering. This is where you want to set it to auto, or you can change it to the correct setting for whatever geographic location you're in. Audio recording. So apparently this thing is able to record audio. I'm not sure how. I think if it's anything like the other DJI drones, it usually records audio on your phone while you're flying, so you can hear yourself talk while the drone is like a quarter mile away. But I'm not sure. I don't know if the actual drone itself has a microphone on it so that you can actually hear those propellers spinning while you're flying. So if I'm not mistaken, you might be able to, because I think I've seen other people's videos and I can hear the props spinning. So I'm going to definitely get back to you on that one because I'm curious myself. And that's it for camera. So we're going to go out of that. We're going to go down, and then you got your display settings. So your display settings, you're able to kind of set the, what does that say? It says the, I can't see because the counter is in the way. Let me just go into it real quick. I think it's saturate. No, what is it? I can't see what. Oh, brightness. It says brightness. So you're actually able to set your brightness for your screen in this menu. You have your zoom. So your zoom is going to zoom in and out. So if you're shooting 16:9 and you zoom out, it's going to like shrink the size of the screen. You're going to have black bars all the way around the outside. And I usually zoom in so I can see the full screen. The next one down from that is home point. I'm a little bit, I guess, on the fence about home point because what it does is it puts that little home point marker on the screen, and I'm not used to seeing that. So in the sim, it's totally annoying because you'll be trying to practice or figure out how to fly through a gap, and this freaking home point marker goes flying through the screen. You're like, what the heck was that? It's like distracting. It can take your eyes away from your actual center of screen for a second to see where your home point is, because you always see this thing rolling around on the outside of the screen. So I'm not sure if I'm going to use that. I don't really, I mean, you could get lost, I guess, but with DJI drones, you hit the return the home button and it comes back to you. So I don't know if I'm going to use that feature as much, but I hear some people saying they like it because with, you know, your typical DIY drone, you can get lost once you get out there and you're trying to figure out how to get back. And time is crucial when you only got like, you know, 7 or 8 minutes on the battery. So don't know if it's for me, but I'll make a decision. I'll get back to you on it. I'm going to go out one. And we're going to go to the About, and the About is kind of interesting. I want to show you what About is. About just gives you all of your firmware settings, like not settings, but your firmware information, like all of your different calibrations and everything, like how everything is doing, what firmware you're using, your battery serial numbers, because the batteries are smart batteries, and they actually, you know, have a serial number and a firmware. When people start cloning batteries, DJI has put a stop to that by making sure that the drone actually checks the firmware and the serial numbers to make sure that you're not using your own battery or, you know, somebody's bootleg battery. That's another thing about the DJI system that is a little bit annoying, because yeah, those batteries do cost like $150. So I know a lot of guys will be out here making their own 6S packs out of like 21700s, but yeah, DJI doesn't want you to do that. Next one is cycle count, so you can definitely tell. You don't have to go back and figure out or write down on your, on my lipos, I used to write with a Sharpie how many times I charged them. This one will tell you how many times you've charged that battery. From that, you got your camera serial number. If you crash it, DJI always asks, what's your camera serial number? I don't know why. Maybe just to make sure that they have the right camera on file so you don't try to swap one out on them. And all this stuff is tied to your drone, by the way. So when you register it, it tells them all this information. They're just checking to make sure that you still have the same one. Your safe flight data, fly safe data. Yeah, that's what I was telling you about, the safety features. If it updates that you're in a no-fly zone, or if you're in somewhere where you shouldn't be able to fly. Like 1 week you might be able to fly there. I know a buddy of mine who lives like literally almost damn near across the street from an airport, a small airport here in Delaware, and he used to be able to fly in his backyard just to hover around. And now when the Safe Fly firmware updated, he can't even take off in his backyard anymore. So that's what you get here. But I'm going to keep scrolling down, because the interesting thing that I found here, some of the stuff I don't even know what it is that if you go all the way down in the About, you find the switch to DJI FPV system. And I found that to be a little bit interesting, because like that would be like something I would want on the main screen. Like especially if I'm using this for my FPV and my FPV drone, I want to be able to switch that thing on the main screen, and I have to go through like 50 menus to get to it. So I found it kind of interesting that DJI buried that way down in the About section, where I don't even know why the heck they put it there. And the only reason I could think that they put it there is because they never really intended for the FPV equipment to be used with DJI's air units and DIY equipment. That's the only thing I could think of. But I don't know. I'm just curious why they will put it there. Maybe they'll change it in a future firmware update and move it outside of this area, so to an area where you can find it. Okay, so I think that is it. If I go out, that's it. That's everything. That's all the settings, and 28 minutes of video. Wow. I don't know what that was. Something popped. All right, gotta zoom back out again. Long way. All right, so again, just wanted to give you a quick update, or not an update. Yeah, I wanted to shoot a video, but I wanted to give you a quick tour of the DJI's ecosystem, of how they kind of like program these drones. If you've never seen it before, hopefully it gives you enough information to make like an informed purchase. Like, hey, I don't want to deal with all that crap. I like tuning through Betaflight, or hey, I like that. Pretty cool. So again, I'm waiting for a package, waiting for it to get a little bit warmer. Definitely gonna get out and fly this thing eventually. I'm itching to get it off the ground and give it its maiden flight. But when I do, I'll get back to you. Talk to you later.